I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 5 years now. We seemed solid. Good job, nice house, two of the most adorable dogs you've ever seen. I thought we had a normal, happy life. But as it turned out, there were cracks I didn't see until they cracked wide open. At first, it was little things. Lisa started acting distant, like she was always distracted or tired. She'd cancel plans last minute, say she was too busy, or had to work late when I knew damn well she was. She also became really secretive with her phone, hiding it whenever I'd come near or trying to sneak away with it. I thought maybe she was just annoyed with me, or maybe she was hiding something trivial, but I didn't push. I figured maybe I was just imagining things. Then came the text, small, innocuous at first. Flirty little jokes with her coworker Jason. Nothing too obvious, but the way she'd hide her phone afterward, her quick nervous glances, that started to bug me. Still, I told myself I was overthinking. I did want to be paranoid, but deep down I felt uneasy. One night I came home early because I wasn't feeling well. I decided to surprise Lisa and cook dinner. When I walked into the apartment, I immediately noticed a strange scent, something floral but not her usual perfume. I found her phone on the coffee table, unlocked, with a message from Jason. It wasn't just friendly banter anymore. They were talking about meeting up, about saving time, about how much they missed each other when they weren't together. My stomach dropped. I printed out the conversation just to be sure, and I read the messages again and again. That's when I saw the picture. A selfie Lisa sent Jason with her makeup smudged and her hair a mess, captioned, "Can't wait to see you tonight." That was the moment I knew she was cheating. It hit me like a punch to the gut. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, was lying to my face about everything. And she was doing it with my own brother. I didn't say a word that night. I just sat in the dark, holding the printouts, trying to process what I'd discovered. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly a little broken. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this with someone so close, someone I trusted? And then the anger started to rise, a boiling fury I didn't even know I was capable of. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew that after what I'd seen, nothing would ever be the same. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding head and a mind full of chaos. I could still see that damn selfie, hear her voice trying to deny everything. I knew I had to face her, but I didn't know how. I was angry, yes, but mostly just hurt. After all, I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. Lisa was already up when I finally dragged myself out of bed. She was pretending to be innocent, as if nothing had happened. She was bitchy from the moment she saw me, snapping at me, throwing around her usual "you're overreacting. You don't trust me, and this is all in your head." She denied everything, of course. Said she didn't know what I was talking about, that Jason was just a friend, that I was paranoid and insecure. She looked me dead in the eyes and told me I was crazy for even thinking she'd cheat on me. It was one of those moments where you realize someone can be so convincing, so manipulative, that even your instinct questions everything. But I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. I had seen the proof and I knew she was lying, so I pushed her. I told her I found the messages, the photo, everything. Her face twisted into a sneer and she said, "You're making things up. You're imagining stuff. Jason is just a friend and you're so insecure you're seeing what's not there." That's when she started to attack me, accusing me of being jealous, of not trusting her, of being controlling. Honestly, she was the perfect picture of a bitchy, defensive wife who knew she'd been caught but didn't want to face it. I didn't want to lose my temper, but I felt it bubbling up. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she just wipe away what she did with smooth words and bitchy attitude? I told her I needed some space, just to think. And I left the apartment. I needed to clear my head to figure out what I really wanted. Walking out that door, I felt like I was leaving a part of myself behind. I'd loved her, I really did. But now I couldn't see her the same way. She was a stranger, a liar, a cheat, and I was furious and heartbroken all at once. Over the next few hours, I called my brother, Mark. I needed to hear his side, get some clarity. Turns out she'd been seeing him too. They met up a few times, mostly late at night, just supposed talks, but I knew better. I knew what that meant. My brother, my own flesh and blood, was betraying me too. I felt like my entire world was collapsing. I trusted these two people more than anyone, and they'd both stabbed me in the back. I couldn't believe how deep the betrayal ran. My wife, my brother, they lied, they betrayed, and they played me like a fool. The thing is, Lisa kept trying to guilt me, call me names, say I was crazy for suspecting her. She said she loved me, that I was overreacting, that she'd never do anything to hurt me. But all I saw was her manipulative face, her bitchy tone, and her total disregard for what she'd done. I knew I had to decide what to do next. Stay and pretend everything was okay, or cut her out of my life completely. I wasn't sure yet, but one thing was certain. I wasn't going to let her keep lying and ruining everything I cared about. That night was a mess. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and I kept replaying everything in my head. Her lies, her cold attitude, the way she looked at me like I was just some obstacle she needed to get past. I was furious, but underneath all that anger was a deep, aching sadness. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I let her get away with so much. It felt like my entire identity was crumbling, and every thought was clouded with betrayal. Eventually, I decided I needed to confront her again, this time with more resolve. I called her before she could come home that evening. I told her I knew everything, the messages, the photos, the meetings. Her reaction was exactly what I expected. She snapped at me, called me paranoid, accused me of spying on her, and said I was just trying to control her. She told me I was crazy for jumping to conclusions, that I was imagining things because I didn't want to face the truth, that I was insecure. That was her go-to move, lying, then gaslighting, then twisting everything around to make me feel like the one at fault. I lost it then. I told her I wasn't crazy. I was hurt, furious, and sick of her bullshit. I told her I wanted her out of the house until she could honestly tell me what the hell was going on. She, of course, acted like she was the victim, screaming, crying, calling me controlling. She kept saying how she loved me, how she'd never do anything to hurt me, and that it was all just a misunderstanding. Yeah, right. That's when I realized she was a master manipulator. She had a way of turning everything into her favor, making me question myself, making me doubt my instincts. While she was throwing her tantrum, I got my hands on her phone again. I wanted undeniable proof, and I found it. She was texting Jason, planning to meet up again that week. She'd also been lying to her friends, telling them she was working late or at her mother's house. The more I looked, the more I saw how deep her lies went. It was like peeling an onion, each layer exposing more deception, more betrayal. I felt sick. My head was pounding, and I genuinely didn't know how I was going to survive this. I told her I'd had enough. I said I was done pretending, done being fooled. If she loved me, she would leave, and we'd talk things over when she was honest. She tried to deny everything again, but I didn't care anymore. I told her to pack her shit and get out. That was the moment I finally stood up for myself, after months of feeling like I was just a fool for trusting her. I remember watching her pack her bags, her bitchy smirk still in place, trying to make me feel guilty. But I wasn't feeling guilty, I was just empty. I felt nothing but betrayal. That night she left, and as she slammed the door behind her, I realized I was finally free from her manipulations. But honestly, the pain didn't leave. It stayed with me, gnawing at my insides. I didn't know how I'd rebuild my life after this, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her lie her way back into my life. Not anymore. The days that followed were the hardest I've ever experienced. Without her there, the house felt cold and too big, like the walls were closing in on me. I'd wake up each morning expecting her to be beside me, to hear her bitchy comments or her sarcastic jokes, but instead, everything was silent and empty. Every little thing reminded me of her: her perfume on the pillow, her hairbrush on the dresser, the way she used to leave her makeup on the bathroom counter. It all made me feel like I was drowning in memories I wanted to forget. I tried to focus on work, but even that was a struggle. My mind kept drifting back to that night, to the betrayal. I couldn't believe she'd go so far, lie, cheat, and manipulate the people closest to me, my own brother, for God's sake. That realization was like a punch to the stomach, and I kept asking myself how I'd ever trust again, How could someone I loved so much be so capable of lying, of screwing around behind my back, and then trying to turn it around on me? It was like she was a different person altogether, a bitchy, selfish monster that I wish I'd seen sooner. But even with all the pain, there was a strange sense of relief. I finally stood up for myself. I didn't let her walk all over me anymore. I felt a little stronger, a little more like myself, even if I was still broken inside. I started talking to some friends, trying to get some perspective, and they all told me I'd done the right thing. Still, that tiny voice inside kept nagging me, telling me I'd lost something precious, that I'd been foolish to trust her, and that I'd never be the same. One night I sat in the living room, staring at the empty chair she used to sit in. That's when the real anger started to settle in. Not just anger at her, but anger at myself for letting things get so out of hand. I kept asking myself how I could have missed the signs, how I let her manipulate me for so long. The truth is, I was blinded by love, by the hope that things could somehow work out. But now I saw everything clearly. She was a bitch, a liar, and a cheat. And my brother, my own flesh and blood, was just as bad. I felt sick thinking about how they betrayed not only me but everything we once stood for. In the end, I knew I had to move on. I started thinking about what next steps I'd take. Part of me wanted to confront them both, especially Jason, get some answers, make them see how badly they'd hurt me. But another part said to just cut my losses, walk away, and focus on rebuilding my life from scratch. I couldn't keep living in this chaos, this betrayal. I needed clarity and distance from the entire mess. So I decided I'd give myself some time, then figure out what my future looked like without her, without him, without all the lies. Honestly, I didn't know how or when I'd heal, but I knew I had to try. For now, I just kept telling myself that I deserved better than all this bullshit. I deserved honesty, trust, and someone who wouldn't screw me over the minute I let my guard down. That's what I was holding on to, hope that someday I'd find that again. Weeks went by and I started trying to rebuild what was left of my life. It wasn't easy. Every day I fought the urge to call her, to ask why, to demand an explanation. But I knew better. Confronting her now would just open old wounds, and honestly, I didn't want to hear her lies again. Instead, I focused on myself, going to the gym, reconnecting with friends, and trying to put some structure into my days. But the truth is, underneath all that, I was still furious. Lisa kept trying to contact me, of course. At first, it was just vague texts. I miss you, can we talk? But I ignored them. Then came the bitchy, guilt-tripping calls. She'd cry, say she loved me, then turn around and accuse me of destroying our family and overreacting. I wasn't surprised. That's who she was, masterful at twisting everything to her advantage. She knew exactly how to push buttons, how to make me doubt myself. But I refused to go back to that place. I knew better now. One day I got a message from Jason. I wasn't expecting it, but there it was, a text saying he wanted to clear the air, that he never meant to hurt me, that it was just a stupid mistake. I didn't even bother to reply. Honestly, I didn't care what he thought anymore. The damage was done. What mattered was that I finally saw the truth, that she'd been lying from the start, that her bitchy attitude, her manipulations, her excuses, they were all just part of her game. I started to realize I wasn't alone in feeling betrayed. My brother, Mark, also apologized, said he'd been weak, that he'd let her get into his head, and that he was sorry for what he did. But honestly, I didn't know if I could forgive him. Not yet. Not after everything. I needed time to process how deep the betrayal ran. I kept asking myself if I should cut him out of my life entirely, or if there was some way to salvage what was left of our relationship. Right now, all I wanted was to be alone, to figure out how to move past this nightmare. I started to attend therapy, just to have someone to talk to who wasn't involved in all the chaos. It helped me see things more clearly. I learned that betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you about yourself. I realized I'd been too trusting, too eager to believe in fairy tales. But I also learned that I deserved honesty and respect, something Lisa never gave me. I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't let her or anyone else manipulate me again. I had to rebuild my sense of trust, not just in others but in myself. So now I'm at a crossroads. I don't know if I'll ever forgive her or my brother completely, but I do know I won't let this destroy me. I'll take my time, heal, and figure out what's next. Somewhere in this mess, I have hope that someday I'll find someone who's worthy of my trust, a real partner who won't lie, cheat, or betray me like she did. That's what I'm holding on to now. That and the fact that I finally woke up and faced the truth. That's what this whole nightmare has taught me. Never ignore the signs, no matter how much you love someone. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes it's just a trap. Looking back, I realize this whole ordeal has changed me in ways I never expected. I used to think trust was everything, something you give freely, something sacred. Now I see it's also something fragile, something you have to protect and earn every day. Lisa's betrayal shattered that illusion. It's hard to trust again after someone you loved and thought loved you back turns out to be a liar, a manipulator. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived the pain, the anger, the betrayal. I'm still standing. The biggest lesson I've taken from all this is that people aren't always who they seem to be. Lisa was bitchy, manipulative, and selfish. She lied so effortlessly that she convinced herself she was right. My brother, Mark, was weak enough to go along with it, and that's the part that hurts the most. But I refuse to let their actions define me. I've decided I'll rebuild my life, carefully and slowly. I have to because I deserve a future where honesty and respect are the foundation, not lies and betrayal. I still think about Lisa sometimes, how she used to be, who she became. I won't lie, it stings, but I refuse to dwell on it. Instead, I focus on myself. I've started dating again, not rushing into anything, just trying to meet people who actually care about me. I've learned to listen to my gut, to walk away from anyone who shows signs of deception or manipulation. Trust is earned, not given blindly. That's a lesson I'll carry with me forever. And about my brother, I don't know if or when we'll ever get past this. Right now, I just hope he understands how much he's hurt me. Maybe someday we can rebuild what we lost, but for now, I need space to heal. It's not easy forgiving betrayal, especially when it involves family. But I also know I can't hold on to anger forever. I have to forgive myself for staying silent for so long, for not seeing the signs, for trusting the wrong people. In the end, I learned that I am capable of surviving the worst. That even when everything falls apart around you, you can find a way to pick up the pieces and move on. That's what I intend to do. Keep going, keep healing, and keep trusting myself. Because if there's one thing this nightmare has shown me, it's that I'm stronger than I ever thought. And no matter how much someone tries to betray you, you always have the power to walk away and start again.